Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going on a deep dive, and it's into something you use all the time. But you might not realize just how versatile it is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the word get.
It's a word that we use every day, and it's got so many uses, I think sometimes we take it for granted.
Exactly. It's kind of like that trusty Swiss Army knife, in your language toolkit. It's like the ultimate multi-tool.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
So whether you are, prepping for like an English exam, or just brushing up on your skills, or even if you just love, expanding your vocabulary, this deep dive is for you.
It is.
We're going to be using this English lesson guide as our roadmap.
Good.
It breaks down 5 core uses of get. And I think you're going to be surprised at just how much ground this one little word can cover.
I think so, too. What's interesting about get is that it's like a chameleon. It kind of adapts to different contexts.
Ah.
So, it can be tricky, but that's what makes it so fascinating.
That's what makes it fun. So are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get this deep dive started. So first up, we have get, as in to obtain or to buy.
Pretty basic, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is like, your everyday, did you get a new phone? Or I need to get groceries, that kind of get.
Yeah.
It's about acquiring something.
I love the example that they give here in the guide.
Oh, yeah.
Have you gotten any furniture for your new home?
Oh, yeah.
It's such a, that feeling when you're moving into a new place and you need to get all the essentials.
Right.
Get that sofa, get those, lamps, all those kinds of things.
You're going to be using get a lot then.
You're going to be using get a lot. And it's a use that you'll encounter in countless situations.
Sure.
Whether you're shopping, maybe negotiating a deal, or just asking a friend about their new gadget.
Yeah, it comes up all the time.
Now, our second use of get is to receive. So how is this different from obtain? Good question. Well, think of it this way. With obtain, you're actively going after something. But with receive, it's more like it's coming to you. Like, getting a message or a package.
Yeah.
Or even bad news, unfortunately.
No one wants to get bad news, but yeah.
Nobody wants to get that, but
it happens.
It happens. It does.
The guide gives this example. Did you get the email I sent yesterday? I mean, let's be honest. We probably hear that or say that multiple times a day.
It's so common. And it's true. I probably do.
Right.
What's interesting here is it's subtle, but there is like a shift in focus.
Oh, okay.
It's not about like actively fetching the email,
Right.
It's about it arriving in your inbox. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the key difference there.
So the third use is where get really starts to show its versatility.
Oh, absolutely.
This is get, meaning to become.
Right. So now we're diving into those changes in state or condition. I got tired during the flight, or, the weather's getting colder, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Transformation. We're talking about transformation.
Yeah, get married. Get married. That's a big one.
That's a big one. And it definitely marks a change in your life.
The example that they have here is, have you gotten sick during a trip?
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, I think a lot of us, again, can relate to.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you're, traveling to a new place, trying new foods. It happens.
It happens. And it's so interesting because it's not about acquiring something.
Right.
Like, it's not a tangible thing. It's about undergoing a change.
A change in state. Exactly.
Get really captures that sense of transition. Okay, use number 4 is all about location. Get, as in to arrive.
This is a good one. Think about all those travel phrases we use, right?
Right.
Like, what time will you get to the office?
Yeah.
Or, we need to get to the airport by 7 p.m.
Right. And the example they use here is, did you get home safely after the party?
Important question.
It's that sense of reaching a specific destination. But it's not just about physical places, right? Like, you could say, let's get this project done by Friday.
Exactly. Get can be used for, achieving goals, reaching milestones, even just getting through a tough day.
Yes. Get through the day. I like that.
That's a common one. We've all been there.
All right. We've made it to our final core use of get. This one is all about comprehension.
Ah, yes. This is where get becomes less about physical things and more about understanding those concepts, ideas.
Yes.
Like when you finally grasp that really complex theory.
Yeah.
Or understand a joke.
Yeah.
You get it.
And sometimes you don't get it.
And sometimes you don't. And that's okay too.
The example they use here is, I don't get why this process is so complicated. I think we've all been there.
I think we have.
Yeah.
And it's so natural, to use get in that way.
That feeling of confusion.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Of trying to piece things together in your mind, get
Mm.
perfectly encapsulates that.
And it's not just for complex topics either, right?
Yeah.
You could be watching a movie and be like, I don't get it. Why does she do that?
Exactly. It's a very natural way to express that you need clarification.
Yeah.
It signals like a gap in your understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And prompts the other person to kind of, explain further.
So just to kind of recap here, we've looked at 5 core uses of get: to obtain, to receive, to become, to arrive, and to understand.
That's a lot of get.
It's amazing how much ground this one little word can cover.
Right. And I think we've only just scratched the surface here.
Oh.
Get has even more nuanced uses,
Okay.
and variations depending on the context and even the region where you are.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a word that keeps on giving.
I'm already feeling like I'm getting a better handle on get, but clearly there's more to uncover.
Definitely. Stay tuned because there's more to come.
Welcome back to our deep dive into get. Last time we really dug into those 5 core uses, and I gotta say I'm noticing get popping up like everywhere.
It's like, when you learn a new word and then suddenly you see it everywhere. It's always been there,
Right.
but now you're kind of tuned into it.
Exactly. Okay, so you mentioned that get can have some even more nuanced meanings, like expressing that gradual change over time.
Right.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Like, think about learning a new language.
Okay.
You don't just become fluent overnight.
No.
It's a process.
Yeah.
So you could say something like, I'm getting better at speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
You see how it highlights that gradual progress?
It does. It totally makes sense. Or like, someone learning to play an instrument. They're getting better with practice.
Exactly.
It's not like
Yeah.
a sudden transformation. It's a process.
Exactly. And it's not just, skills. We see this with the weather too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
As we head towards winter, it's getting colder.
Yeah.
Get perfectly captures that gradual shift.
Okay, so we've talked about those formal uses.
Right.
But what about when it comes to slang or those informal expressions? I'm thinking about things like get lost or get real,
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Get definitely has its place in informal English. Get lost is a classic,
Yeah,
though probably not something you'd say to your boss.
probably not a good idea.
Right. And then get real is like a way of saying be realistic,
Yeah.
but way more casual.
Yeah, much more casual. These expressions definitely add color to our language.
Yeah.
But it's really important to be mindful of the context.
Yeah.
You wouldn't use them in, formal writing or
Right.
business presentation.
It's like, having different outfits for different occasions.
Exactly.
You wouldn't wear your ball gown to the grocery store.
No, no, no.
Okay, so you also mentioned that get can have slightly different meanings depending on the region or the dialect.
It's true.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, language is constantly, evolving and adapting to those local cultures.
So give us an example of that. Okay.
Sure.
So for instance, in some parts of the U.S., you might hear someone say, I'm getting to go to the concert, instead of just simply, I'm going.
Interesting. So it almost like emphasizes the excitement.
Right.
Or the opportunity,
Yeah.
like I'm lucky enough to be going to the concert.
Exactly. It adds a little something extra, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And these regional variations,
Yeah.
they really add richness and diversity to the English language.
Yeah.
They reflect the unique character of these different communities.
So as English learners, it's important to not just, memorize the definitions in the dictionary,
Right.
but to be open to these variations and how get is really used out in the world.
Absolutely. Language is about communication, and that means understanding those nuances and the different ways people express themselves,
So we've talked about a lot here, those formal uses,
Right.
informal expressions, regional variations. It's clear that mastering get goes beyond just knowing what the dictionary definition is.
It really does. You need to get a feel for the language,
Yeah.
for how words are used in different contexts. It's like learning to dance. You need to kind of feel the rhythm,
I love that analogy. It's not just about the steps, it's about the flow
the flow.
and the expression.
And just like with dancing, practice makes perfect. The more you expose yourself to the language, the more natural and intuitive it will become.
So speaking of practice, are there any tips that you can share for really internalizing these different uses of get? Because I have to admit, I'm still kind of getting my head around it all.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most effective ways is to actively use get in your own, speaking and writing.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment, even if you're not 100% sure if it's correct.
So it's okay to make mistakes.
It is. Mistakes are inevitable,
Yeah.
and they're actually a valuable part of the learning process.
So it's like those oops moments can actually help us learn and grow.
Absolutely. When you make a mistake, it's a chance to kind of, analyze why it happened,
Right.
correct it,
Yeah.
and move forward with a deeper understanding.
Yeah.
And remember, there are a ton of resources available to help you along the way.
You mentioned earlier online dictionaries and grammar websites.
Right.
Those are great for looking up definitions and examples.
They are. And, don't forget about language learning apps
Oh, right. Yeah.
and online communities. There's a whole world of support and guidance out there.
It's like having this global network of language coaches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the best part,
What's that?
a lot of these resources, they're free.
Free. That's my favorite price.
Exactly. And they're easily accessible.
So to sum up what we've talked about so far, get is incredibly versatile
It is.
with, formal and informal uses, regional variations, and all these nuanced meanings that go beyond those simple dictionary definitions.
It's more than meets the eye, that's for sure.
And we've learned about those practical tips
Yeah.
for mastering get,
Yeah.
from that active use and experimentation to using all those resources.
All right.
And not being afraid of making mistakes, right? Those learning opportunities.
Absolutely. Embrace the mistakes. They're your friends.
I feel like we've covered so much already, but I'm excited to see where we get to in this final part of our deep dive.
I know. There's more to come.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into get. We've covered so much, from those 5 core uses to the slang, the regional stuff,
Yeah.
even how get can be used to talk about those changes that happen over time.
It's been a journey.
It has.
And now it's about putting it all together
Yeah.
and making get work for you. Think of it kind of like learning a new recipe.
Okay.
You've got all these amazing ingredients.
Mhm.
Now it's time to create something delicious.
I like that. That's a good analogy. So where do we start? Like, what's that secret ingredient to truly mastering get?
I'd say it's developing that intuitive feel for the word,
Okay.
going beyond, just memorizing the definitions
Right.
and really understanding how get is used out in the real world.
So it's about, immersing yourself in the language,
Yes.
paying attention to how native speakers are using get, in conversations and books and movies, all those things.
Exactly. It's like learning to play an instrument by ear.
Mm.
You listen to the music, you pick up those melodies, and eventually you can start improvising.
Ooh, I like that.
You create your own music.
Yeah, and just like music, the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
Absolutely.
So what are some practical ways that we can practice using get?
Well, one technique is to come up with your own examples.
Oh, okay.
You remember those 5 core uses we talked about?
Yes.
Obtain, receive, become, arrive, understand. Try coming up with sentences for each of those.
Okay, so you're saying like really actively thinking about the different meanings
Exactly.
and how to use them, like almost like, doing language reps at the gym.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to have fun with it,
Yeah.
Imagine different scenarios, different characters. The more you kind of play with the language, the more comfortable you'll become.
What about those times when you're not 100% sure
Yeah.
if you're using get correctly? What would you suggest for those moments?
Don't let fear hold you back. Mistakes are part of the process. In fact, they can be really valuable.
So it's like those oops moments actually help us
They do.
learn and grow.
Absolutely. When you make a mistake, it's an opportunity to figure out why it happened.
Yeah.
You can correct it and move forward. And remember, there's a ton of resources out there to help you.
You mentioned dictionaries, grammar websites,
Oh, yes.
language learning apps,
Yes.
online communities.
Don't forget those. There's a whole world of support out there.
It's like having, this global network
It is.
of language coaches
It really is.
available at our fingertips. So to wrap things up, we've really explored this amazing world of get. From the core meanings, to the nuanced uses, to the slang, to those regional variations.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. And we've talked about how to master get and how it's about way more than just, looking it up in the dictionary.
Right.
It's about getting that intuition for the language and practicing and immersing yourself and even being okay with, making a few mistakes along the way.
Absolutely. It's a journey.
And as you continue on your language journey, get is just one small piece of that puzzle.
Yeah.
And the real magic happens when you take everything that you've learned about grammar and you combine it with your own unique voice and style. So don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah, have fun with it.
Be creative, and most importantly, have fun. Thanks for taking us on this journey into a get.
It's been a pleasure. Remember, the language learning journey never really ends.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and, keep discovering the joy of communication. To our listeners, keep those language adventures going. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating corner of the English language. Until then, happy learning.